Hello, everyone. This is Jimmy Cultist back again with another logic tutorial. Today we're going to be discussing how to create a health bar, the various methods, I guess, for displaying HP, or current hit points, whatever you want to call it. So let's get right down to it. First things first, we'll need to find the health manager. You can do this by using L1 and X to scope into the puppet. Scope in until you reach this purple circular thing. And then press L1 and X to open up this microchip. Every puppet, at least most of them by default, have this microchip that's orange called controller logic. And in here, there's the controller sensor, the puppet interface, and a bunch of other stuff. But what's commonly always in here, especially, which is what we're looking for today, is the health manager. And this little gizmo manages all your health and also manages your ability to die and whatnot and take damage. But we're not going to be talking about that so much today as we are how to display the current value in our health manager. Which, real quick, I'm going to talk about the health managers, how to create HP with it. It normally is set to 100 and 100. But you may be asking, what if I want to increase the number? Well, if you set current health, it'll just default to whatever the maximum health is. And if you lower the maximum health without lowering the current health, it'll just default to whatever the current health is. So set the current health lower before you set the maximum health lower. Always keep that in mind. The order is current health and then maximum. So for the purposes of our tutorial today, I'm giving him 9.0 current health, which will also be 9.0 maximum health. There's also this little thing here called cooldown time. It basically operates like limited invulnerability after you get hit. I usually set it to 0 unless I have a specific, need for it. I don't tend to, though, because I think it's better to make your own limited invulnerability because you can be a lot more specific with it. You have more control over it. But let's get to some of these settings on the side here. There's remaining health percentage. There's currently gaining health, which you can use as an output for when you're receiving health. Like, you could hook it up to a keyframe and make your health bar turn, a color when you're getting healed. Or you could make it turn red when you're currently losing health. And this is the output for no health, which essentially is death. And it's usually hooked up to the controller sensor over here. But let's get right down to the most basic way to display HP, which is numbers. I've made a microchip in here with a number displayer, which you can find inside movers and output. The number displayer looks like this. By default, it's 0. I've modified the look a little bit, but other than that, it's pretty much just a regular number displayer. And you may be wondering, wouldn't it be best to take the output from remaining 100% and put it into here? Wrong. The reason why is because usually you have to set this to a certain value in order for this to work. So you'd have to set the number range after the wire's been removed to 100% and then connect this for it to work properly. Let's turn off the music and test it out so that you can see what I'm talking about. Alright, it did properly read the amount of damage I took. But what if you didn't want to fool around with setting the number range every time you change the health manager? That's really annoying, isn't it? Well, luckily, you can actually just make it dynamic by using the current health output instead of the health percentage output. That means that whatever we change this to will be reflected in here without us having to set the value to, anything. It can be set to 0, and it'll reflect our current value, whatever the HP, manager, the health manager displays. So I just thought I'd mention that real quick, because it's something I didn't really know about for the longest time, and it's very useful. But yeah, we have 9 HP, so if we take damage, it's going to be really simple. 8% easily displays your health. However, numbers do lack a certain stylistic, appeal. It's a bit bland to look at numbers. And what if you're bad at math? Well, then comes in the next type of health bar. The next simplest type, I should say. And that's just a regular old-fashioned meter or bar, which I will explain how it works. First, I've taken a text displayer, which is set default to red. I'm using the text box background, this little gizmo here, and I've just typed out G over and over again so that I can stretch it out with these arrows on the side. You can grab it with R2, and if you grab these little arrows with R2, you can make it wider or thinner depending on what you're looking for. And I've set it over to the edge of the screen. I've also slightly lowered the text box opacity, because I would like it to be slightly see-through so that it doesn't obscure your vision too much. But you could make it fully see-through, and as long as it's not too obtrusive, it probably won't cause any issues. Now, I've stamped down a keyframe, one of these little babies, and with it, I've just extended the health bar outward, and I've changed the color to green. And this is going to represent our maximum health state. I've also got this little background bar that really isn't affected by anything. The sort order, though, is below our other health bar, which is a sort order of 2. This one is 1. And I'll explain how it works. Now, this time, we are actually going to need the remaining percentage output. Connect it to this node, and then connect it to this keyframe. And as you can see, it looks like a health bar. And because it's off screen, when we get hit, we won't really see the fact that it's, just a big bar moving in a certain direction. It looks like it's decreasing. And it's also changing color gradually to red. Let's keep getting hit so we can see the full cycle. I'd say that's pretty nifty. Pretty easy way to make health management. Now, one thing that is a little annoying is sometimes, getting this set up right with the keyframe at the start can be a bit annoying, especially if you want to change the position of the health bar, because its location has to be constantly, relative to the keyframe or whatever. If I wanted to move it, say, I don't know, down here, and then I wanted to do this, it'll just, fly back up there. So you will have to reset where it puts the health bar. And you're going to have to reset the default as well, and that can be really annoying. So yeah, it's just generally resetting it can be annoying. So make sure you have it in the right place, or you'll have to go through all that trouble to put it in a new location. Now here is the third type of health bar, And I don't really know what to call it. Maybe a fractional health bar, maybe symbol-based health bar. I don't really know what to call it, but it's basically the heart's health bar for me. If you're familiar with Legend of Zelda, you probably know about how hearts work. But it's probably the most complex method for creating a health counter. Luckily, though, I have created the most simplified version of this concept. So first thing you're going to need is a text displayer set to display a heart. And if you want to know how to make a heart, just go to In Dreams Me icons, and they have a glossary of all the icons and how you can make them using text displayers. So I've also got a shadow heart behind it, which will act as a gauge to show how much of the heart's fraction, has been decreased. I'll explain it. So at full size, the heart is controlled by a keyframe. I can make it bigger and smaller using the D-pad. And if we turn this off here, we'll see that I made this text displayer just a little smaller to represent fractional damage. And then I did the same with this one, where I made the heart just a little smaller. Another thing I've done is I've turned up the opacity of the heart. And by default, it's actually set to 0. That means that when none of these are displaying, you won't even see a heart anymore, meaning that, it's basically completely drained and gone. And now I'm going to talk about how I got these keyframes to work and what inputs we need to achieve this effect. First of all, I'm using a calculator. And we're taking the valued input of current health and connecting it to a node, which leads into all three of these boxes. These boxes represent all three hearts: heart number 1, heart number 2, and heart number 3. Inside each is another node connected to 3 calculators. The first calculator is set to equal, and because our maximum is 9, it's set to 9 on its operand 2, I should say. So when this thing is at a value of 9, it will be displaying this heart at full strength, which is what we want. And when we decrease to 8, it will be displaying the heart at half health. And when it is decreased to 7, it will decrease again, and so on and so on. Now you may think that we're in the home, we're home free. That's all you need to know, but there's a little bit of a quandary we're dealing with here, which is that at maximum, this health, will be displayed. But what about the secondary heart? We can't have the maximum be the same for it, and if we're not at maximum, the secondary heart wouldn't even appear. So how are we going to get this first value for our second box? Well, we'll just use a different method of calculation, which is when it's above 5.90, which would mean 6, basically. When it's above 5 and it's at 6, this heart will be displayed at all times. And the process for the rest of it is actually repeated. The calculators are actually set to equal after this. It's only the first one that it's important that you use this greater than value system. Now let's go ahead and test it in action. We'll see our hearts decrease in real time. There we go. And you could do this with anything. You could do it with a cheese wheel, slowly losing pieces. It's just a matter of math and using calculators. That's how it works. And those are all the methods I know of to create a health display. I guess there is one other little thing to mention, which is for the numbers method, you could actually have it displayed in the scene above the character's head, in case you're wondering how to do this with enemies. Just set it to always on top and always face the camera, and then put it above the character's head. And that would operate pretty good if you wanted to have enemy HP displayed. Now, creating a health bar above the head is not really very feasible, because getting it to remain at the same orientation when you're moving around in scene is very difficult. Maybe if you had a physical sculpt with a look-at rotator on it, that might work, but otherwise it's pretty difficult to do. So yes, that's all I've got to say on the subject.
Thanks for watching. Hopefully this was an insightful video or otherwise enjoyable. If it was, then go ahead and subscribe if you can, and hit the bell to keep up with our videos. Also, subscribed or not, give a like. If you have any questions or statements, leave a comment. We try to answer all comments. If you like what we do here and want to help out, consider becoming a channel member. Alternatively, you can check out the link in the description to support us through Patreon. Until next time, take it easy. That's all for now.